How's it going, everybody? Welcome to week 16, I believe. Yes, 16. Here we are, almost done. In fact, kind of pretty much done with religious traditions. I think next week we're just going to review the final exam, and I also want people to be working on their final projects. So maybe I'll start there, and then we can talk about some other things. So hopefully you've had a chance to read over the guidelines. Your final projects are actually two different sort of elements. One is a paper, like a write up, a 3 to 5 page paper. Um, that kind of talking about what your topic is, and as you will see in the guidelines, please make your paper manageable. Um, your topic. So now's the time. Like again, I want to avoid topics that are so broad that you have to like basically sort of rely on AI to kind of create it. Right. I want if you narrow down the topic, you can kind of get your ideas across. So, again, the example I use is like if you were writing about Jesus in 3 to 5 pages, you cannot talk about everything there is to know about Jesus, right? And there's entire branches of stacks in the library, books on Jesus, right? So what is it you want to say about it, right? Are you interested in the teachings of Jesus? If so, look at those. If you're interested in an event from the life of Jesus, focus on that, right? If you want to look at one gospel, go in a little more in depth, but just narrow that down for all of yours. I mean, some people are doing Buddhism, and again, it's like the Buddhism. I'm going to read the Dharmapada. I mean, that's like a 600-page book. There's, if you're going to do it, I mean, make sure you're engaging with this on a level that, because if I get a 3 to 5 page paper and it's obviously just sort of like, you know, just a bunch of stuff like sort of AI generated ideas, I don't want that. I want you to be able to walk away from this with something that something you could take with you about whatever that idea of is. And then similarly, and so that's the paper side. And I gave, it's basically 12-point fonts, secondary sources. Make sure you use proper direct quotes, proper quotes, formats. Use those styles. If you don't know what Chicago MLA or APA are, find out. I mean, you can find that online. The library has that. So make sure things are cited correctly. Make sure the citations are correct as well. I mean, if you cite something and I go and look at it and it's not lined up, if whatever citation is there is not the same one in your works cited page, right, I'm going to wonder where you got this information from. So, just follow all that stuff through. I mean, it doesn't have to be a huge research paper, but just make sure you're using secondary sources and primary sources as well within your paper. I think that's it. You got to use direct quotes. You can use secondary sources as well. And so just again, as you look back on my notes, on your outline, on your topics, make sure you narrow that down. And then the presentation side of it, it's like 5 to 7 slides. Doesn't need to be super long, but and I think you'll see the complements of them as well. That as you put in your presentation together with images, those will help kind of narrow down what you want to talk about in your paper, and vice versa. Things from your paper, I should have a nice image about that in my presentation. So slide 1 and 2 are required. Slide 1, let me just double check here. Name, title, opening image. Slide 2, bullet points of your main idea of your presentation. And this, there shouldn't be more than 3. 2 to 3 is it. And then each slide should be one of those topics, right? So it's another way to kind of help organize your ideas, and try not to just cut and paste paragraphs from your paper onto your slide. Slide should have just the main points. And when you're making a presentation, you want to avoid having huge long blocks of text. So work on that. Pretend you're giving it to the class. If you want to narrate it, that's fine. I know there's a lot of ways you can do that. Loom, other ways you can record it, and then you can upload it there. And you upload it to. Sorry, let me just double check. Upload it to discussions, whereas your papers you'll upload to the assignments. Just wanted to verify that. So you'll upload 2 different things to different places. I do that just because it's easier to. Both of them have different ways that I can assess. So So it is a little confusing. Make sure you read over the guidelines. If you have any questions, please ask me before next Friday, May 8th. And I'll open all that stuff up on Monday. You can turn it in any time that week as you go along. Good. I mean, obviously, if it's just like a bunch of AI stuff, I'm just going to return it. I want to hear your words, right? So make sure things are cited properly. It's a topic that's manageable that you are showing me you are engaging with. Right? That's kind of the big idea there. Something you want to learn more about from religion that you can take with you, which sort of relates to the discussion post, right? That this week, I mean, it's very, very reflective. I think it'll help sort of kickstart our thoughts about the final exam that is cumulative. Kind of go back through what we've learned about religion, maybe this week, world religions. What is it? Something you can take from this class, right? This idea of this framework, this story, right, that we're creating. That this class, this Hawaii Community College, is a story in your life. What is something we've done all the stages of it. We're soon the hoina and the return, but the haina. What can you take from it? I mean, you have all this knowledge now. Now it's your chance to give it, to spread it and inform other people. If somebody asks about religion, you can say, hey, there's substance and style of it. Here's some substance of religion. Here's some answers that religion provides. Here's how it's done in different religious contexts across the globe. So, what is it you want to say there? And something from this course. What is it specifically from this course that you can take with you? So do that by Friday, and then next week is the final projects. This week is just sort of new traditions. I tried to kind of go through the world religions and extract kind of things that are a little bit, they're new forms, new that have emerged within at least like 100 years. We talked Mormonism, which is sort of another branch of Christianity. Baha'i, which is sort of its own. It sort of branches off of some other religions. It's got its own sort of background as well. Some new forms of Hinduism, Amma and Sai Baba. And then some that just kind of formed up. Scientology is relatively new religion that has its own sort of paths as well. So, not a lot there this week in new information, but I think that's it. But mainly just kind of be working on your final projects. Hopefully you got those. Again, keep them narrow, keep them manageable, and I look forward to hearing what you guys come up with by the end of next week. All right, have a good rest of your week.